Happy Thursday. How you doing? Let us get ourselves sorted. What are we going to do today? I'm going to do a circle. Who's showing up? Who is showing up today? Okay. I just need to record. All right. I'm Cynthia Harrison from Rhombus Healing Arts and the Academy of Conscious Evolution. We are here for mystic musings, circling grace, and whatever else may come up. So, hey Facebook, hey Zoom, hey Instagram, and hey to the YouTubers. So, I just want to get one more thing on the go, and hopefully a few more people will come on. And there we go. All right. So I can see you on Facebook. Say g'day. Say hello. Oh, Lisa. Hey, Lisa. Good. All right. I can't see anybody else. So I guess as you come on, I'll see more of you. And hopefully you will say hello. All right. Let's look. Actually, I can. Just pairing all the channels. So what are we doing? Kim Gibson are watching. Hey Kim, hey Lisa. All right. So if you're going to come on to Zoom, better get on quick smart before I start because I can't see you then. All right. What's going on? How is everybody? All right, Mercedes. What are you doing awake? I messaged you. I messaged you. All right, but I do have something that you may be interested in that I messaged you about. Let me just check. I'm going to go off here. All right, so many screens open. I'm just trying to get rid of everything that I don't want or need. All right. Oh, it's so hot here, but I'm not going to complain. It's actually not that hot here. It's just hot in this room. And no matter what I do, I've got my little Arctic air. Do you want to see my little Arctic air? Look at it. It's my little air conditioner. And it's usually really awesome, but lately it's not. So I think I just cleaned the filter. I don't know what's going on. I'm just supposed to be hot, I guess. So if you see me sparkling, see all this? Sweat, right? I'll tell you a story. It's funny. How many of you are worried about aging or getting older? So look what I'm going to do. I can't even put the link in. So I can see Rhombus Healing Arts Facebook page, and I can see the Instagram, Cynthia Jane Harrison. So put in there, unless you want to come over to Zoom. I can't even get you the link because lately, I tell you what, I don't want to say anything, derogative about Restream, but for the last few, I don't know, maybe 2 months, it hasn't been showing me all the stuff. So I know it's streaming, I know you're there, but if you're on any of the other pages, I cannot see you. So I don't know, you want to pop over to Rhombus Healing Arts so that you can talk to me. or my Instagram so that I can see the chat, or come over to the Zoom, which you'll find in any of the Facebook pages. You'll see the link to Zoom, okay? Now I'm getting on with it. You snooze, you lose. So where are you? Something funny happened just before I came on. That's why I was like a minute late, because my granddaughter sent me a video of her mum, my daughter. And she'll probably hate me saying this, but she was having a little bit of a, oh my goodness, this is how old I am, right? And I mean, I could think that too, because she's my daughter and she's freaking out about how old she is, and I'm her mum, right? So it was hilarious, because she's realizing, oh, by the way, my grandmother turned 98 yesterday. I thought she was already 98, but apparently she turned 98. So I was making her 99. She was 98, well, on the 6th. So it depends on, today it's the 6th in Hawaii, but she's Australian, so it was yesterday, okay? Because she's in the future. Anyway, and so I just sent my daughter a message saying, you're not even 40, and, you know, I told her how old I'm 52, and I said, you know, life starts at 40. I'm like, who out there? A lot of you are over 40, right, and over 50. When did life really start for you? Like, do you remember going, wow, this? I was worried about hitting this year, you know, whatever year that was, and when it came and went, it was like, whoa, life just started. Do you have a, am I talking to myself? Am I talking to myself? Right? So, you know, and then you think, okay, life starts at 40. Well, for me, life started again at 50. And I moved to Hawaii and getting on with life in a whole nother way. So 50 onwards, right? 35, Lisa says. And it's interesting because there is a spiritual in the flame letters. Okay, there's a numerology. There's a Hebrew numerology. It's like the link to the Moses codes, but how it came to me was through flame letters. And so there is some crossover, but basically it's the code or the frequency, the vibration of your name. And it gives you all the areas, but in particular 2 levels, the physical or the world level and the spiritual level. And especially for women, but it's across the board, but especially for women, so women, listen up. It's in the mid to late 30s and early 40s that you only just start to move into these spiritual realms of where when you've worked with the, I guess you could say, the positive, negative, neutral of your numbers, frequency, how you came into the world, what are the lessons, right? It's all there in your name and in your codes. And when you've done that, you're better able to navigate those spiritual realms, which is still here, but on another level. And I know that is a little bit cryptic, but I'm not here to teach you about that. It just came up because Lisa said 35, and it was like, yeah. And a lot of you will find that. But really, you know, around those sort of late 30s, early 40s is where things really can start to kick off, if and when you've done your work or your play or your integration and processing. And some of these ways of knowing, some of you have done your codes. It'd be interesting to look at them again with new eyes. These ways of knowing so you can see where your challenges were and are and why, right? So there's a lot of ways of knowing out there. The reason that I sort of have an interest there is because it came to me directly through flame letters, and then I saw how other people were teaching and talking about these ways of knowing, which, you know, everything has some truth in it, but if you don't have the mystical understanding, you're going to miss a lot of it. You're going to miss a lot of it. And also the intuition, or the intuitive knowing, when you read anything. So I could read anything that I've got here. I've actually got, so ladies, I've written myself a little note to download the video for a class the other day. I've already done it. I've put it into Vimeo. I've just got to send you your links. So I apologize for that, but it's on its way. But I did write myself a note in case I didn't do it, and it's sitting right here. But I could look at that. And there's those letters there, but then it's also what's behind the letters and the underlying message to that, right? So when we read, so I can see there's some people here, and there's some people there, and there's some people there. There's other people probably watching on some of the other channels that I can't see right now. And we take what we're seeing and what we're interpreting at face value. And look, I'm here to tell you, there's so much more to absolutely everything. Absolutely everything. And so, in fact, we're just looking at my codes here. So the other day I wrote some codes on my canvas. I can't quite show you because it's locked in the canvas. I might be able to pull it over a little bit. No. Let me just show you. Yeah. And how these might be. No, Instagram can't see. There you go. Whoa. There you go. Right? Some codes. Everything has a mystical understanding. So anyway, rambling on a bit today, because I don't know what I'm going to talk about. I mean, I'll take you through grace. However, and I'm not sure how many are on, so it'll be interesting. I asked you last week and the week before, I believe, what would help you? What are the areas that you're wanting some assistance in? It's interesting to me, so I'm just going to be straight up with you, which I always am, but sometimes I'm a little more in your face than others, okay? We can turn up and do these frees, these lives. They don't cost you anything but your time. They actually cost me, right? So we can continue to do this, but you could take some responsibility for your participation and let me know. Is there an area or something you want help with? Is there, is it health? Is it energetics? Is it your spiritual? Or like where, what, how, right? And then I can go in that direction. I mean, some of you I know show up, and what I talk about tends to be like, bam, what you need. And there's a reason that I'm asking, because I was shown something this morning, and it was based on what one of you that are watching asked me. And so I'm looking to see who else and what else is needed, how else I can serve, because, not everybody can work with me in the ways that I've got out there at the moment, right? So I'm putting it out there, and you can private message me, or you could just put it on the chat, like just whack it in, like I would like more information on those flame letters you just told me, or how a lot of the scriptures were misinterpreted, and why, and how I can show you that. In fact, I have my Hebrew here, and it's not, just to let you know, this is a dead language. This is biblical Hebrew, right? This is my alphabet, right? My alphabet, which is really what it's called, alphabet, right? Because A is Aleph, that's what it's called. But there's something called the Yod. Anyone know the Yod? So this isn't a biblical Hebrew class. I'm just sharing you one little tidbit while you contemplate what it is that you might want to know about, or have some direction in, and then we're going to do circle and see what comes of that. There's letters, and in fact the letters connect to the flame letters. In fact, in Hebrew and in Sanskrit, the letters come through, and the deities come through the flame. Okay, they come through the flame. And so when they came to me as flame, and even in my my connection work, how I moved and how the codes and letters come in, is not always, but can be connected to that. And recently it has been, right? So I'm being shown. This has been going on for a long time, like 10 years, 9 years, right? A long time, decoding the information that I get, and looking past the matter, right? The matter. Even that, I want to go into it. All right, the matter, mata, the mother, the mother, the matrix, the maya. It's all the same thing. The maya, the illusion. Oh, and then we could go into the drop and all the scriptures around that, right? The language. It doesn't matter what culture you're coming from, because all of those words are from different cultures, mean, it's pointing to the one. Our job, our role, is to be the point. And so those of you that are doing Psi, this is a key. You haven't done your theory yet. Next week you'll get into some of this, but the one is the soul body. The one, the point. It's where we come in, and then we navigate this world, right? So, how do we understand the mother and the father, or the Abba and the Ima, or the divine mother, divine father, or the blue and the red, or what else do you call the light and the dark, the heaven and the earth? So being shown these letters, and I did the same in Hindi and Tamil, because the scripts were written in those languages, right? So Aramaic and biblical Hebrew and Aramaic are very similar, much like Spanish and Portuguese. Mercedes, is that right? And some of the other languages, right? And even so, these texts, these ancient ways of knowing, and these guides, whether you're religious or not, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's a guidance. Where are you taking your guidance from? And you know, how discerning are you? How discerning are you? What's your ability to make a choice in life? An informed choice. Maybe just rate that for yourself if you don't want to share. But because to truly be able to make a choice, we're navigating through what these languages, or these letters, or this numerology tells us. But it's multiple, it's so encoded that it would blow your mind. I can't even begin to tell you in this little live, right? But the yod, I'll share this, but it may not make sense. It's very encoded, all right? So feel into it. So as I said that, felt it. Feel into it. And then we'll see where you're at and where we go, but we will do a circle and grace. We'll probably do it in the middle so I don't take all the time. But this is what I've been living. So I live the deities, right? And they come to me. And for the last few months, it's been these two particular female deities. But who they're married to is important. So I'm not even going to mention names, because names are layered with beliefs and conditionings, right? So if I just give you the purity of how it plays out, so let's just see. Don't worry, if you're in the classes, you'll get the names and all of that. But I just want people who maybe don't know me and don't know, they've just turned up here and they're like, who is this woman, right? We have one of those deities or matriarchs that is seen as the lower, and we have another one that's seen as the higher. And through the marrying, so this is in the flesh, we have the beautiful one and the intelligent one, and the man, so the masculine in a masculine body, playing out the integration, the point, the yod, which connects, right? The yod is a Y, but in biblical Hebrew it's we say yod, but it's like an apostrophe. It's the tiniest. It's like the one iota, you know, it's like one little dot. The yod. It's the smallest letter. It's the smallest of the smallest, right? This isn't going to make sense. I want you to just feel it, because I don't have time to go into years of, right? I want you to feel it. This is the mystical. I'm decoding something here for you. And I don't even truly know what it is, you know, in my physical, because it's coming through in this way, right? So bear with me. So we have this what would you call it? What's the word for that? It's like interdisciplinary, but so that man is linking the lower with the upper, and the upper with the lower, the speech with the intellect with the speech. Feel it. So the beauty was seen as, so most of us in this world, actually, just talking, okay, here we go. So my daughter's freaking out about being 40, and she's not 40. I'm like, you're not 40 until, you know, anyway. And I said, and your grandmother just turned 98, your great-grandmother just turned 98, so deal with it, all right? Life began, you know, in my late 30s, early 40s, and really kicked in at 50. So, you know, if you're worried about aging, and beauty, because usually it's the beauty or how you're seen that's connected to that, right? So what really is beauty? Because this one that was desired, right, was the most beautiful. She's always also the lowest in this coding. She was speech. Now, in saying that, so I'm throwing a bunch of codes at you, and let's just see where they fall. In saying that, the word, conscious word, is the highest. Oh, what? Some of you, I don't know, is Rebel here? Is MA here? Right? Mercedes, you've been around. Lisa, right? I want you to get this, feel it. What did you get from that when I just said that? Because that was an aha. I'm going to break it down a little. The lowest is the highest. Who did the Paradox Evolver teachings with me? Any of you here? Where we spent so much time going through this sort of paradox, where the lowest becomes the highest. There's a flip that happens. You still with me? Let me know. You still with me? I'm not sure who this is. Bazoa. Say g'day. Let me know what you think. If you're new, it's like, what is she on about? Ask me questions. I'll break it down a bit more. If you don't ask me questions, I'll keep going in my code, thinking, you know, you're going to get this through transmission, right? Which you will. All right. When the lowest or the seemingly low becomes the seemingly high, that's the journey of the human. So what I just explained to you in this very unclear story to some, those with eyes will see and ear will hear, right? Feel it with the ear and eye of the heart, and it'll be so clear to you. If you don't know, ask. So beauty connected through this, I don't know what that word is, but it's almost like in electronics. So anyway, whatever we're going to call it. It's the man. But in the energetics, it's a pathway. Let's just call it a pathway, but that's not the word I'm looking for. Transistor? So let's just go with transistor, right? It's a transceiver. There we go. Thank you. Transceiver, right? Energy going up, energy going down, or, you know, the light, the emanation. So each aspect, each person is an emanation and holds these stories. But these particular are guides that can talk and walk and move you and think you through thought, speech, and action. In every scripture you'll ever come across, you'll see that in there somewhere. What your thoughts, speech, and action is, whether it's conscious or unconscious. You cannot make a fully informed choice if you are unconscious. It's not choice. You're just going along with the flow. The word transmits, yes. The conscious word makes sense. The word transmits, yes. So in past weeks we've talked about the breath, and when we have, you could call it prana, or you could call it Holy Spirit, right? In the breath, that's what makes it alive. That's what creates healing. The breath on its own, it's just breath, right? Where you consciously bring that emanation in, well, it's already in, but when you're consciously activating and being that, when you speak, that's power. And when it's empty and you can't even get your breath, take a breath. Most humans have a very short breath because the stress creates contraction in their diaphragms, mainly the one, under the lungs. But we have other diaphragm, right? So in Kundalini Yoga, we look at all the diaphragms and how they're working. But if you just work with that breath, because when you're stressed, you'll have a shallow breath because the diaphragm, it pulls up, and so it can't expand and assist, right? So actually, we'll go into something. We'll do an isometric just to show that you can't actually see everything. But if you put your left hand over your right hand, so basically so I'm going to talk you through it first because it's a little bit complex. Okay, it's to expand or reset the diaphragm. Don't do it more than twice. If you've never done it before, just do it once and then feel, because it can make you a little dizzy, right? Because it's an isometric, but if you've been contracted for a while and then you're working that muscle, so to speak, and then it all moves, it can make you a little dizzy. So make sure you're sitting down in case you get a bit wonky, right? So that's just my preamble for caution. Enter at own risk. I take no responsibility from here on in. All right, good, we got that out of the way. So what you're going to do, but not yet, I'm going to do it first. So we take a breath in, right? And we hold it, and as we hold it, we pull our elbows in and gently push our stomach out while we're holding the breath. Okay, I'm going to say it again, so I'll let it go. So you've just got your hands just under, like on the diaphragm. You take a breath in. As you take a breath in, you pull your elbows into the sides of the rib cage, and you gently, not a lot, because it can be a lot, just gently push your diaphragm out, or your solar plexus area, right? Right, and then, okay. So now you do it, or we'll do it together. So breath in, elbows in, push your belly out just a little, hold the breath, and release. And just feel. Are you a little dizzy? You've got a little wonk, right? So that is a little isometric to reset that diaphragm. Now take a breath. I should have got you to test your breath beforehand, but now take a breath. So it's breathe out first, right? Just get all the stagnant, crappy crap out from the day. And when you think your breath's out, go. Now take a breath in. When you think you're full, really breathe right up to clavicle, and then breathe out. And you could do that again if you want to. through the mouth or the nose, it doesn't matter. And after you've done that, now just see what your natural breath is. Is it deeper? And I guess again, if you weren't conscious of how you were breathing beforehand, you probably won't notice difference. But maybe tomorrow try it, or later on tonight try it. Notice how you're breathing. Then do the diaphragm breath, like the I don't even know what we'll call it. The diaphragm isometric resetting. And then just see what your breath is. And you can do those long, extended. I'm all about extending the breath, so I'll do it whenever. I'll invite you to do that all the time, right? Because we don't breathe extended breaths. So what that means, as a lot of you already know, is that there's a lot of stagnation in the lungs because you're not doing full breaths. Okay? When you speak, are you speaking from your chest, your head, or your navel, your nabi, your hara, your lower dantian, all the different words and ways, your fire, right? When you speak from your gut, power, but we don't. Great singers, watch them, ask them. That's where they come from. Any chants, so, anyone who does sort of, I'll just say Kundalini yoga, because there's other yogas too, which are trained in as well. But yeah, I recommend Kundalini yoga. But anyway, that's another story. Purely because of the spiritual connection. Like they're just, for me, it brings you back to the guru within, the God within, the consciousness, like the connection of the two, the in and the out, right? If you're just praying or worshipping or bestowing your devotion to the external, you're missing the points. The yod, the dot, the still point, the singularity, right? You're missing the points. We're connecting heaven and earth, which is sort of what I'm getting at with these two women and their husband. Does anyone know who I'm talking about? I'm not going to say, but it's just interesting, these stories that have been around for 5,000 years or something like that. Walk the energetics of the human evolution. They walk, right? It's just one way of saying it. They are the guiders, that's why they're the matriarchs and the patriarchs. You want to go the Vedas, you want to go wherever, I can show you where they are. And that's, again, not to rub it in, but that's what we do inside, right? This is a little inkling of that, because it's like conscious evolution, your creative conscious evolution. How do you get there? Not by praying to a God that's only out there. There's no connection. Oh, I actually did my car, left it out there. I did a little painting today on one of the cards. So we do these little cards in training. And mine today was about connection, the soul body, the one, the ek, the point, the yod, the top and the bottom, and how everything is connected, and how when you have the code decoded, this is why I'm here. I mean, there's no doubt, because I'm like, why are you showing me all these different cultures, all these different ways of knowing, all these languages? Why on earth would you learn a dead language? I mean, I remember when I was 25 and I went to Egypt, the same thing. Hieroglyphs. I started reading hieroglyphs and I was going to all the temples and everything. I was 25 and I had no interest in it. It was like I was not well. And everything opened up and I ended up in Egypt, which is sort of my story. I just end up in these places, not planned. And I look back now and I'm like, wow. And that book, the Egyptian Book of Living and Dying, which is not really the correct title for it, but most of you know it as that, is the story of creation, the start and the end and everything in between. All of them are saying this. Anyway, I don't want to preach. I'll get off my preacher box now. Although I am going to step up. Not today. All right. So, feel into that. All of these pieces, all these little gems, what are they showing you personally? How are they making sense to you? Because I'm just talking about so many different things. And you could feel like, well, I'm lost. But each of these little bits, in a way, what was just shown, in a way, I'm teaching you, I'm showing you, I'm modeling to you how to decipher, decode your own life. Because all of this has come in to me for years, little bits and pieces. And now it's just like, all right, I'm going through something. All right, who's this about? Which one of you is this that is guiding me directly in my physical, the contemporary, well, Lisa says Sarah, Mary, Magdalene. Are you asking, Lisa, or are you saying this is what is coming to you? This is what you feel. This is what you feel. Because in one way, all of that is correct. Not that there's truth in everything. And this is what I got to be real clear on this. Depending on where you look, where you Google, what book you read, they will tell you something different. So what Lisa is saying in the Facebook here, Sarah, Mary Magdalene, not necessarily Mary Mag. So she's saying this is what came to me. Beautiful. And maybe they're the mothers that are guiding you. The Magdalene came to me a long time ago. I've done some paintings of her. Usually they come when I'm painting. I don't paint as often as I used to. They come to me in a more direct way now, but yes, right? And how she showed me her role, much like what I'm talking about with this masculine, and how this masculine is bridging particular qualities of the beloved on the earth. Because all of the emanations, all of the qualities of what I call the beloved, what my relationship is with the beloved, so call that whatever you will, but I'm sticking with my language today. All of those emanations, it's like they're all within each other. And when we say the matriarchs, like all of the matriarchs are within us. all of the patriarchs are within us. And I feel that strong when I say that. Like they're all within us. And at different, it's like I could say, so I could talk more new age or whatever, right? You give me a language, I'll use it. It's the same bloody thing, right? Bit of my Australian coming out there. Archetypes, numbers, numerology, tarot, trance, mediumship, right? Aspects of the self. I just spooked myself then because on Instagram I've got this filter and it's two of my heads and one's really big and one's really small, and the big one just freaked me out when I went like that. Can't have a look. Anyway. This big head on the side there. I was like talking about spirit. Whoa. So all of these aspects of self, and this is how I used to teach it. Conscious evolution, all the aspects of self, it's still true. Everything I taught back then is still true today. I just use different language because I know I'm more, I asked to be shown language. For the last few years now, I'm saying, give me language to be able to express, to assist others to be able to understand the almost non-understandable, because it's all in code, right? It's all in code. But when you start to evolve, when you start to get more sensitive, when you start to, you have that. That's the intellect is high, right? Intellect is high. But it involves all of these other aspects. If you're just speaking for speaking's sake, it's low. So you may be beautiful, but you're talking unconsciously. You're not conscious. Therefore, you don't have the directorship of your life to be able to navigate and make choice. You're just following, you know that word? It's like a folly, dancing and, diving into the water like those old musicals. It's just a folly. Some of you want to do that, great. I've been there. Occasionally I go for a little bit of fun and frolic, But now there's a consciousness to it. So when speech comes with consciousness, it's high. So what seems low flips. What's at the bottom is actually the top of the next layer. So I'll give you another little hint. What's at the bottom is the crown of the next level of emanation. And then what's at the bottom of that is the next layer or level of emanation, and so on and so forth, right? What becomes higher becomes the bottom of the. It's a flip. Well, it's not actually a flip, because I used to say it's a flip, and then somebody started using that language back to me, and I'm like, well, actually it's not technically a flip, okay? So just to be clear, it's not technically a flip. It's just a way of sort of seeing or visualizing what I'm talking about. It's more like a movement, and how all those points of reference are referencing each other. It's like you can't have me without my mother and my grandparents and probably don't necessarily need my sister, right? But I'm talking about lineage. Who's speaking to you now is my lineage. they see through my eyes. All my patrilineal as well, all my grandparents, particularly one grandfather who I cared for. He had Parkinson's, and just before he died, I was his carer. And when he went, he's the one I brought back to life a few times. Anyway, that's a whole nother story. Some of you know it, but that one. And then when he went, he was with me for a long time. He was just with me all the time. And he's not so much, like, he's not anymore. I've integrated that. He is me. They all see through my eyes. I walk for them. But where does it stop? Go all the way back to the first man and the first woman. They're all our lineage. They're all our lineage. So who is that in your beliefs and conditioning? Like your beliefs, who was the first man and the first woman? They all see through. Every one of these, in whatever, whether it's Indian, Hebrew, English, American, whatever nationality you are. Irish just came to me because, that's part of my lineage. The Celts. It's all there. It's all there. And the stories are a little different, and they don't cleanly fit, but it's like the metaphor of the guidance to be able to navigate this seemingly at times unnavigatable life. It just seems really tough. It feels like there's walls in front of us, right? Am I right? No. When I said that, I remembered the story I wrote about, what did I call it? The shadow on the wall. The shadow on the wall. And it was, it had to do with information or part of my life way back when I was in the Defence Force, and some trauma. And what I'd done was, because I had left the Defence Force and I'd moved state, and I didn't know anybody in that place, nobody knew me, and I just didn't feel it necessary to say what my past was. No one asked really about that. So it's only really been the last few years that I've been sharing that I was in the infantry unit and, blah, blah, blah. It wasn't that it was a secret. It was that because there was a trauma there, and I explained it or saw it when I was in meditation many years ago. I've written, it's in a book, Dr. Andrea Pennington published. Anyway, it talks about this shadow on the wall, but the wall was the wall that I had built myself. And so the shadow was just me, my fear. But when I first saw it, it was like grains of sand. So I was sitting, in Perth on my lawn, under my favorite tree, that I got a lot of information under that tree. And I was shown all these grains of rice. I don't know why rice, and I saw that one piece of rice touched all of these other pieces of rice, and they touched all of these other pieces of rice. So you can use any metaphor there that you like, sand or whatever. So that one memory piece of rice, that one memory touched in. So I didn't want to touch into that memory. I just wanted to just get on with life. I didn't want to deal with that anymore. I'd done enough. I'm moving on, okay? And what had happened is that every other memory that touched into that was like an activator back to that trauma. And so if I barricaded that one memory, I had barricaded years of who I was and was unable to be my full, complete self. You feeling me? And as scary and as crappy as it was, I had to go back to that grain of sand or that piece of rice or that memory, that trauma, and make peace with it. Not fight it anymore. Process it. And that story and the poetry that I've written about it and all the rest of it was part of that standing toe to toe. It's in the poem, right? Where I was standing toe to toe with that shadow. So I just was shown in the teachings around the rise of the feminine, the real rise of the feminine. No. Anyway, I'll just leave it at that. I talk about being face to face or back to back. Now, back to back is unconscious. Face to face, fully conscious and ready to connect and be in relationship and be intimate. You cannot be intimate if one is back and one is front, right? But it's a start. Anyway, that's the teaching. But just to link that in, because what I was seeing back then was basically that I had my back to myself. I was back to back with myself, an aspect of myself, Corporal Harrison, right? Quartermaster Sergeant Harrison, back to back with her. Because if I thought about somebody that I worked with, or all of my, beautiful defense family or whatnot, what does it do? It brings in, it just naturally trickles to that. So barricading, where's your wall? Where's your wall? You may not have one. Chances are you probably do, right? We're human. Where's your trauma? What have you barricaded? What have you tried to put under the carpet or put behind you, but you haven't processed it yet? And this is about, so the key here is about standing toe to toe. And the shadow on the wall, and I wish I could show you the imagery, because I made a video, like a creative video of the wall, and the shadow on the wall looked like a soldier holding a machine gun. But as it moved, it was just the illusion. She wasn't fighting. It was a shadow. It was an illusion. It was the angle that you were looking at it from, right? And this is the point when we come at our fears with that fight. It's going to fight back, and it's really you fighting you. So some of you, do you remember the smelling your wrists last week? Why that was important, and any other sort of techniques around that, is because, do you like yourself? Not love yourself. Do you like yourself? Are you kind to yourself? Do you care about yourself? And that can be like for some people who watch this, maybe you watch the replay, some people will get a trigger from just that. In classes, I just talk about liking yourself, and people will break down because they realize, wow, if I treated other people how I treat myself or talk to me, all those, you've heard it before, this is nothing new. The stories, my personal stories, and you'll have your own, but this is my wisdom, is when I realized that I was barricading one piece, I barricaded about 10 years. And so when you met me, you were only meeting a piece of me. And every now and then, someone would ask me something, or it'd be in conversation, or they would, because I worked in trauma too, funnily enough, right? And I often worked with veterans, and I understood them like nothing else, because my dad, like 5 generations of veterans in my family, right? Even my sister, she served in the Navy. So, right, I just got it. They didn't have to explain stuff to me, because I understood. I understood. And, it was like, do I share some of how I, that connection, that intimacy with these people? Or do I keep that part? Because ultimately they'll say, oh, why did you get out? Or how come you're doing this now? Or da-da-da-da-da. You see? I had to break down, well, I actually climbed the wall in my story. I climbed the wall, right? But I took the wall down. I took the wall down so that there's no aspect of my life that is not touchable. And when I did that, it just went, it's like, whew, the energy that I reclaimed. So just to touch on, so it leads into all the teachings. So I'm jumping around a lot of different teachings, but I guess in these lives, this is sort of what we do, because it's not like a formal program or class or anything. So I'm going to say this, it's like when that energy comes back. So when we're depositing our energy every single day, so when you wake up, you're 100% of your energy quota, right? And as soon as you start to get into the day, it depletes before you're even out the door, because you've deposited into the, what would you call, the piggy banks of your life in all of these different people, places, happenings, memories, all back there around you, right? And there's different ways that you can talk about that too. You could see it. I used to draw it as the chakras and these spirals coming out of the chakras. Different chakras, different things, front and back, all leaking energy. In the biofield viewer, so it's technology that shows you your energetics, you can see leaking energy too, not to the degree that I'm talking about. The biofield viewer doesn't show everything, and we've been working on that for many, many years now, because I'll say, well, it's not showing, I can see that, but it's not showing this. So we can get, those that can see can get more information, but suffice to say, where is your energy going? Where are you leaching or leaking or depositing, whatever language you want to use? It just means, where are you depleting every single day when you wake up? Or are you touching into those places and saying, okay, it's time to look at this and reclaim that percentage in the here and now, so that I can move on and go forward with what I'm here to be and do and are in the world. Right? Are you tired? Are you tired? Where is your energy? Is it here? Is it here? Or is it somewhere else? Is it in the future? You're worried about the future. Or is it holding up the walls and going around? So just seeing these visions of, going around with the mortar and filling in the holes, right? As it starts to crumble over the years. And it's like, whoa, no, we're going to patch that up. Otherwise, we'll be inundated. So this just came into, I can remember the image that I drew, maybe, I don't know, 20 years ago. Maybe longer, actually, 30 years ago, But I remember it because it was a point, another point, right? The point where I was so fearful of talking about a particular event or actually, I don't even know if it was one event. I think it was just a whole lot of stuff from my youth, right? I've had a very interesting life anyway, but a lot of that. And I remember drawing a picture of myself or a representation where the mouth was it was like if I let a little bit out, there was a fear that it would be so overwhelming it would take over me. It was just like, right? Can anyone relate to that? I mean, in some way, some of you will, because some of you have had major traumas or things that have happened that you don't want to talk about, or you've talked about for a few times, you've been to counseling or trauma therapy or whatever for a few times, and that's enough, right? Because you start to get to the stuff that if you touch on it, you think you're going to explode and there'll be nothing left of you. So some of you watching this may not relate, but I'm telling you there's a lot of you that will, because it's what happens in trauma. When you have trauma, it feels like it's going to eat you up. So there are ways that we can befriend. It takes time, takes trust for those, really huge, right? For those of you that are on your spiritual development journey, well, you still have to do that. And trauma can be a gate, right, to your awareness and your consciousness. Just feeling whether to go into that. No, we're not going into that. But it can be a gate. But it also can spiral you. So wherever you're at and whatever's going on for you, have people around that can support you. If your friends and family can't find somebody that will, because often, your friends and family are part of it anyway. For a lot of people, your friends and family are detrimental to your health. For some of you, they're really great. So find your safe people. Right? That's what I used to say to the kids I used to work with, who are your 5 safe people? And we'd work it out. Who are your 5? So that when you can contact those 5, one of them is going to be available, surely. They're your safe person. And there's a little contract around that. If they're reaching out for a reason. They're tugging on the red thread. Some of you know. People say they're tugging on the red thread. It's not just they want a conversation. They want to see what's going on in my life or whatever. It's like, oh no, they're tugging on the red thread. They're like, they need some support, right? So who are your 5 people, or who are you even 3 people? And there may be people that you haven't even thought of. So how are we going to pull all this together? We went all over the shop today. But we really didn't. We didn't. Because it's all related. It's all connected. So we have where we're losing energy, where we're unconscious or unaware in our thoughts, speech, and actions, right? But we may, there's some beauty there, but the beauty is shallow. It's not deep. It's surface, right? And then we have the intellect who's deep. Her beauty is deep, but her surface isn't so beautiful culturally, right? And so the bringing of the light together, the emanations together through that conduit, the masculine, so that the lower could reach the intellect, so the speech could reach the intellect, or the thoughts, and the thoughts could reach the speech. And there was a merging of it's a trinity, it's a trinity. It's one of the triangles, but it's a crazy looking triangle, right? So how two come into one, and then you have, do you understand? The upper and the lower come into one through that conduit, and there's a marriage between the three, and they all become higher than they were individually. Or do you get it? I don't expect you to get the whole thing, because it's like but what I'm saying is, I guess, what parts of you, let me bring it into something that could be helpful. The parts of you that are pushed away, the parts of you that are low, right, that have dropped. How are they going to merge with the higher parts of you? What needs to happen to activate the transceiver? So there's giving and receiving and giving. Do you know what I mean? I wish I could. I'm looking at Mercedes, because I can see her. If she nods, I know you're all got it. Or put it in the chat. There's so many different ways. I mean, I could tell you, Lisa was talking about Sarah. I could tell you through her story. Sarah and Abraham, or Sarai and Avram, the mother and the father. Av comes from Abba in Hebrew is father. Abraham's the father. And I would say, he's known as the father of the main religions, right? But again, it's just a metaphor for the energetics and the lineages of our heritage, our history as human beings, not as this culture or that culture, or that language or that language. I can use another language. It just so happens I'm focused on this one at the moment. Well, I'm actually learning 2 languages right now, but it's purely just so I can speak to you in a way that to help you understand from the many different perspectives the mystic truth. So when you have the mystic truth, it doesn't matter what your beliefs and conditionings are. It doesn't matter to me personally where you come from or what you believe. you can believe that. I won't ever tell you not to. I will then look at, okay, how can I create or co-create intimacy with you and that particular way of knowing, so that we can find the truths, the mystic truths within your belief or your ways of knowing, right? So some will say, this is for Lisa, that's for all of you. Some will say Sarah is at the bottom. Sarah was the Malkut, or the royal kingdom, which in some ways she was. However, in the teaching of the rise of the feminine, I would say it was Hava, who is Eve, but there was 3 different levels of Hava, and there was also Lilith. So all of these mothers, all of these aspects of the feminine, and what their roles were in creation, in this world, this earth we live on, what their roles were, how we can look at it from multiple perspectives. It's so beautifully awesome. It's just so beautifully awesome. And so misunderstood. That if I had known this when I was younger, I don't know where I would be. Right? But for whatever reason, I was veiled from all of this until my, I guess my 20s. I wasn't that old. But that came in more the Egyptian and Tibetan stuff, right? And the ways that came in, and the understanding of that, and all of everything that I've talked about today links in with all of that as well. All the levels of, it's ascension. The different worlds, the levels, the different worlds, where we're at, where we navigate those worlds and whatnot. Anyway, all right. What time did we start? 3:34. So I've been going over an hour. So what was helpful? Let me know. So on the Zoom, let me know. No one else can see it. But either let me know on the Facebook, on Instagram, or on YouTube. Where else are we? What piece intrigued you? What piece confused you? What piece you're like, yeah. Is there something that, like, just feel into it? Because otherwise it's just entertainment. It's no use to you at all. It's just a time filler. Don't use it as a time filler. Use this for your health and wellness, for your conscious evolution, for your your creative conscious evolution is, who you are, who you're being, who you're being into are-ing in the future. Consciously create it. Consciously create it. If you don't know how, then maybe put that. I'd like to know how to consciously create. I'd like to know how to be the director of my life. Because I could say, well, to be the director of your life, there has to be awareness. Well, how do you get awareness? Through consciousness. Well, how do you get consciousness? It's like, well, we keep working on that. How you come into the world through through the one, through the point, and how we are to basically be that point. So some realized there was a wall, yeah, or a veil, or like sometimes, I mean, not sometimes, all the time, the veils that prevent us from seeing beyond are for our own protection a lot of the time. Because some of them are because we have so much fear, we're not ready to, or we don't know how to, or we don't have the support to start to look at those fears. So whether we use it as, okay, is it a wall that needs to come down? Is it a veil? Is it a, they're fears of fear. Or they could be fears of love as well. But the wall that I was talking about was a fear of fear. Because it was, like PTSD. It was, and I cured myself from that, and anxiety, all around those years of my life, right? And when I was shown, and I can remember an exact day, was actually at my sister's, and I was having a shower. It's always in the shower or something like that, isn't it? It's like, when you sort of just, and I was told to write this story, and I was like, I'm not writing that story. No one knows about this story. I'm not writing about the story. I wouldn't let up. And when I wrote the draft, I cried what I call the ugly cry, where you can't even see, like you're sobbing. I cried writing it. And then when I finished and I had to edit it, I cried again, like sobbing. And every time I read that story, I sobbed. I can remember when I had to, well, I didn't have to, I read it out loud because I wanted to do an audio, like a little audio sort of book of it, right? I read it out loud and I still cried. So I was like, oh, I can't use that. All right. Now I can read it. I can talk about it. I don't cry. I have no charge on it at all. When I wrote another story about Still Small Voice, it was around having my eldest daughter that I actually started this call about. I had her very young. And I hid the pregnancy because I was told, I was shown, like I was spoken to, so to speak, that this child was to be. And everyone around me, like it wouldn't have been. So I was 7.5 months pregnant when people found out, right? People meaning my family and whatnot. And then I was put into a home, right? Because, can't have that. And so nobody knew where I was. My brother and sister didn't know where I was. Nobody knew where I was. I was like put into this home. Anyway, I have a lot of stories, but suffice to say, this one, I don't have any trigger on that, but where I did have was this little girl, and then when I had her, she was taken from me at birth, right? So, and I couldn't get out of bed because, I was, bleeding and stuff. I had complications, so I couldn't even go and look for her. They just took her because of my age. And I would beg, where is she? I want to feed her. All this stuff. And they're like, oh, no, they make up all these excuses. When my sister, I can't even remember now, but my sister is my angel. She's my older sister. She was 18. And she found out where I was through my mum must have told her or something. And she came to see me and I said, I don't know I don't know where she is. They took her. And she helped me. So it was with my sister that we fought to get that baby back. And when I did, because it was in the hospital, but they wouldn't, they treated me like crap. So they treated me like a queen, right? Because they got my baby. And I was visited by a monk, a Benedictine monk, and a nun, and all these people, all these religious people. It was like, and I'm like, just, where's my baby? Anyway, I knew it was that still small voice, so that's what it was called. I knew that child needed to be born. And then all these years later, when she was going through her near death, it's a whole big story about that. And we didn't know she would live, and it was for a long time. And I got that voice again that said, she's got great work to do in this world. And I just felt it through my whole body. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what she was to do, but I knew that she was going to come back. And she now has 3 children. She's an ICU nurse, and she saves lives. Every week, she's saving lives. Right? So, like, when I wrote that story, I bawled my eyes out over and over and over. And it's like the love for that child, and like how, like, I want to tell that story because I want her to know how wanted she was, right? Because, the poor thing got, yes, I was her mum, I'm sorry. It probably wasn't easy having me as a mum, right? It was a bit different. But my point being, if you can't hear that, what could you imagine? I don't know. I mean, maybe she would have had an even better life. I don't know. I just don't know. But I listened. And if I hadn't listened that first time, she wouldn't have existed. That soul would have been just off this, right? Because I had no legal rights to my own body at that age. Back in those days, they can do whatever they want to you. Do you see what I'm saying? So having that still small voice to be able to hide at that as a teenager, being pregnant, still going to school and doing your own medical stuff, right? There's no Google, there's no computers, there's no phones. Me and my girlfriend went to what did they have then? The health, what are they called? The health, they were like a clinic where you could get pamphlets. I get all the pamphlets and I would read them and go, oh, I need to get I need to have iron, and I need to make sure, I get these vitamins, right? That's what I do. Anyway, she was healthy. She was awesome. She's still awesome. And it's funny that we went full circle because she's the one freaking out about getting old, right? And my granddaughter, who's 10, she's 10 now, she sent me the video. She videoed her mum freaking out about getting older. Yeah, it was hilarious. Anyway, it was a bit of fun. So some stories about that. Now, I'm not telling you to go to traumatize you. If any of that touched a nerve, reach out to me. They're not uncommon stories, They're not uncommon stories. Children were taken from young mums all the time. It still happens today, and those places are still open, right? My daughter's dad was taken from his mum, and he's a couple of years older than me. In a similar way, children were taken, right? It's a different type of stolen generation. But he was adopted out and found his mum in his, I think, 30s, late 20s, early 30s. And she told him this part of the story, and it was very similar. Like, it could have been what happened to my daughter. So it's interesting, down, genetically as well, that happened. I think it is. All right. What loop's still open? We've done, do you have a wall? If you do have a wall, just recognize it, or a veil. If there's something that is still there that scares you, just recognize it. You don't have to go tearing down walls and, getting the sledgehammer and all that right now. Just go, yep, I've got something. I see you there. Thank you for showing me. Yep, I know you're there. Thank you, right? Just be grateful. Thank you. If you've got stuff in the past that, you're putting 20% here, 10%, 3%, like of your 100% quota of energy, just recognize it. Okay, I'm waking up. Or maybe this is why I'm tired, because a lot of my energy is going to the past and the future. It might be I'm worried about my future health, or I'm worried about my children, or my elderly people, or whatever it is, future worries, or past stuff. Your energy is going there. Recognize it. Oh, okay. I believe some of my energy, my life force, is going to these places. You don't need to do anything about it right now. Just recognize it. Right? Just acknowledge it. Okay, thank you. Thank you for showing me that there's the possibility that some of my energy is in the past or in the future. And what would it be like to start to bring some of that back into the present? And just by acknowledging it can do that for some of you, right? It's quantum physics, right? What else did we talk about? The transceiver of lower or so-called lower energy to higher energy. Is there really a high and a low? Is there really an up and a down? Is there really an in and an out? How are you the transceiver? How are you open to being a transceiver? Are you open to receiving? Are you open to giving? Is there something in, actually the other day generosity came up in a particular way, and I was contemplating it because, so all right, we're going a bit longer today. This is for you, Mercedes. You tired yet? I just lost where I was going. What did I say just before I went to you, Mercedes? What was I saying? I completely lost the track. Oh, generosity. Thank you. Generosity, because in our human grid, energetic grid, generosity sits in a certain space. And generosity is really interesting to look at, because it's not about giving necessarily, right? When you get this, it could change. So if any of you are going through, so let me bring some context to this, because what you're working on is held in your grid and will show up. And the shoulders, or the higher part of the grid, is courage and generosity. Brave heart, I call it, right? And generosity. And truth and trust and just, and purity of love and all that. There is all different parts of this grid. But generosity is an aspect that I was curious about, because it came in again. And I'm talking about giving and receiving. Generosity Oh, I'm getting downloaded now. Okay. We haven't got long. Generosity. There's, okay, how do I say this without going on for another hour? There's levels of reception. In our spiritual development, there's 4 levels of reception, right? I've touched on it before, but just to know that there's levels of reception. I'm not even going to name them. But how receptive you are is how intimate you can be with the beloved. How receptive you are is how intimate you can be with the beloved. If you're not open to receptivity, to receive, you can only go so far. And we're all about giving, right? You hear a lot about giving. Okay, where am I going with this? Because it's like, if I put all this together, what it's showing me is that generosity is on this level, on human level, giving. So you give somebody a birthday present or a flower or a ride to the shop or pick them up from the airport or whatever you're doing, you know, your generosity. But within us, and look, if you want to journal prompt for this, do the generosity one, because clients in over time, I've taught about this grid because I can scan where the grid's out, right, and what that's related to. And if it's generosity, I'll usually ask them around, you know, we have a conversation so I could see through their language where that point is, so I can bring their awareness, their consciousness to what's screaming out through their system. And I'll give you an example of one lady who, she was saying, you know, it could be around my daughter. And we started to dig into that. And she was saying around, you know, normal things like cleaning the room, and, you know, I cook her dinner, and she, you know, all of that. But it got to one thing that really was an aha for her, which was around, she'd given her a present and she didn't say thank you. So she didn't recognize that. And so when you're giving at a certain level, it's not, right? You hear this all the time. It's not about getting something in return. Pure generosity is that you do not, it's like you do because. So when that grid is out in that area of generosity, it's around that. It's not that you're not giving or you're not sort of open to people or right, being generous. It's when you have that little voice or judgment saying, oh, they didn't even acknowledge me, or they didn't say thank, or I didn't get anything in return. That's not that level of generosity. Do you get what I'm saying? So, I mean, that's a good contemplation. It can be difficult, because what are we brought up doing? I don't think kids nowadays are so much, you know, that you've got to give people hugs and all of that now, right? We don't do that so much anymore, which is sort of good, because they're hugging and kissing all these strangers, or, do you know what I mean? Manners, you know, all of that. All of that's changing. And some, you know, I'm not judging it, I'm just looking at it. How does this link to receptivity? Or does it? So receptivity as in with the beloved, with God, with Hashem, with what else do you call great mystery, supreme source consciousness, right? My relationship is with the beloved. And when I'm fully open to receive, right, that's my giving. It's how you can. So if you look at who you are, like you're this vessel, you're a vessel, this body with my, daggy old t-shirt on. This vessel, your vessel, we are, or vehicle, or instrument, right? But the emanation is coming in, much like this, you can see the emanations from the emanator. And when we're not open, we're full of all the stuff we're carrying from where all our energies filling up. We're not open to receive to that degree. Now, when we're not open to receive to that extent, it's a fear of love. So we talked about the fear of fear before, like the wall and the shadow and all of that. But when we're not able to receive, this is important if you come to Circling Grace, right? Because we can do all sorts of amazing, miraculous things. And if you're not open to receive, you won't. It'll just run over you. Not run over you like in a car, but run over you like as in, it'll just run over you, run through you, back into the earth, So for some of you, the contemplation or the journaling or the questions might be around, am I open, truly open to receive the love of the beloved? What would that even be like? I know that some of you have told me that, as you open up, you get more sensitive, and the sensitivity is frightening, can be frightening. Okay, it doesn't have to be. There's so much you can do, and partly it is acknowledging that that's like it's just part of life. It's just part of the life that you're here to live, and it's not a curse. It's a blessing. I used to say, my gifts were a blessing and a curse, right? How I am is a blessing and a curse. Now it's just pure blessing, right? It just is. It just is. So whether it creates discomfort for me or not, see? So we give, we be generous, and then what are we giving to feel good? Because if we're giving to feel good, then we will want something in return, or we want to be acknowledged. So are your fears around not being acknowledged? Are your fears around not being seen or heard? What else could it be? Not being enough, not being, place in. Not being respected, that's a big one for some people. It's fear. It's fear. It's fear. You can label it whatever you want. And on the other side, about receiving from the beloved, or even from holy wisdom, if you want to, which is the beloved. It's an aspect of the beloved, so it doesn't even matter, right? But if you want to look at, right, masculine, feminine of God, there really isn't. but we language it that way, so let's go with it. Right? Holy wisdom is aspect of the emanation that is here on the earth that can rest within us, and that's who I often work with. Holy wisdom rests in me, speaks through me, gives me information to share to you. Holy wisdom, right? I'm open for that energy, for that emanation. Okay? So, how can you practice to receive today? How can you practice to open a little bit today? Let's do circle, and then you can see how that. Let's close with circle. And before we do that, I want to let you know, actually, I'll put a post out about it. It's fine. So just as you're breathing, so as you breathe, you're breathing out. So breathing in, call yourself back to yourself. So you could say, soul, come back, right? Soul, come back. And as you breathe out, you say, stay here. Stay within me. Be the director of your life. As you breathe in, return to me from all of my 5 senses that you have left in some way, shape, or form today, out into the environment, out into the work, the children, the partners, the employer, worries, politics, health, whatever. Out. Breathe it in. Come back to me. Come back to me. On the breath out, stay here. Stay here in me. Stay here. And continue. Just notice how that feels after you've done it a few times. Like demanding, commanding the self, the soul self, to come back to the center, to you, to the core. Come back. Return. Stay here. Come back to me. Come back to us. Stay here. So if you're dealing or have challenge or disruption, discomfort in your life, come back to yourself. Breathe yourself back. Soul, come back. Even make a little chalice, or see the chalice, the number 4, then the heart, the chalice, the cup, the space. Come back. Sit in the chalice, the chamber of the heart. Stay with me. Stay here. Whenever you feel yourself going off, it's okay. Be conscious. I've left myself a little. I'm going to bring that back. So allow it to go off into a movie, into a lover, into a child into an experience, right? Practice. Return, return. Stay here. Until you can be in that practice and in yourself, in your vessel at the same time. The walking meditation. You are, you are, you are. You are it. You are it. So if you have energy all over the place, feel it now. Feel it. Feel it. Is it back with you? Do you feel energized? Do you feel it within you? Do you feel the difference? When you command, really command. If you don't feel it, command it. Command it. You're not yelling. You're not angry. You're saying, soul, come back to me now. And as you breathe out, stay here. Come back now. Stay here. Command it. Be the director of your life. Know that you have that power. Know that you have that power. Continue to practice that. And everything we spoke about today in this long, gone a little bit over time, about 25 minutes over time. Know that everything we talked about, how cryptic and convoluted it may have seemed to you, come back to this. Come back to you. Come back to your soul self in the vessel. Okay? That's it. That's all. Practice that. Journal some of the things we've talked about. And practice that breathing. Find out where your wall is. Find out what you've barricaded. Find out what's under your carpet. Under the rug. You've swept it under the rug. You haven't cleaned. I cleared my back veranda the other day. I moved everything. I moved the couch, the purple couch, everything. Swept it, hosed it. And when you look out there, I can't help you see this. One day you may already. But when the energy is touched into, it's bright. It's so bright. Do any of you know what I'm talking about? The brightness of the energy. When you look out those windows and out into that nature, it's so green and red and bright. It's the same when we clean the house. We're blessing the house. It's not cleaning, we're blessing the house. We're sweeping as a blessing, right? I used to do it in Perth. I would sweep the path that my clients would walk to the clinic, even if it didn't need sweeping, because it's energetic, right? Even if somebody else had just swept it, I would sweep it. I would clean the room, energetically clear the room, clean the room, the massage table, everything. But do you get what I'm saying? That's a meditation too. If you have to cook dinner, make it that blessing. Washing the dishes. I still hand wash dishes, but so it's blessing. But you can see the energy. If you can't see it, just know that it brightens it. There's a brightness to it. And I can see Mercedes there glowing right now. I can't see the rest of you, but I can literally see you glowing right now. Your energy is just glowing, right? It's this brightness. It's the same with your area, with yourself, with your breath. Bring it back. home. Connect to everything as a blessing. It's practice, and some of you may not want to do the practice, and that's cool. Pick the bits that resonate with you, and really, if you are needing some health and healing, I can heal you till the cows come home. But bring your soul back and watch what happens. Just watch what happens. Let me know if you do practice this. Just journal it for like 7 days. Just keep bringing yourself back. Breathe it. Come back to me. And then go out into the world. And sometimes you might be in traffic and you can go, come back, because your senses start to send it off, right? It's one of the practices that I have taught in mediumship, but also in trance, because the way that I teach those is a little different, because it's all you anyway, right? But until you know that, you want to be working with the guides and call them things and all the rest of it, but they're aspects of you, right? And once you integrate them, it's you. You're talking to you. You are it. You are it. There's aspects of you that can't be in the body, like the subtle body. It can't be in the body. There's so much of you that can't fit in this vessel. It's not made to. But just because it's not in the, it's like my children aren't in this house. Does it mean they're not part of me? Right? That's probably not, I just pulled that out of my hat. But do you get it? My grandkids, they're in another country, right? Does that mean I'm not connected? Like, do you see? They don't fit in this body. They're not supposed to, but they are a part of me. And when I'm no longer in this vehicle, I will see through their eyes. I will see through their eyes as their ancestor. How beautiful is that? Remember that. Your ancestors see through your eyes. If you didn't like your mum and dad or your grandparents, go way back. Go way back. Go to the matriarchs and the patriarchs, or one of the deities that you resonate with. You are it. Allow them to see through your eyes. Allow them to move through your body. Allow you to integrate that aspect of who they're showing you, because you are that. You are that. And if we push away from things like that, that's the fear of love, the fear of your magnificence, the fear of the potential that you are in the world. Okay, get off my soapbox now, all right? You are all of it, and you can reclaim all the aspects of the self that you're able to receive at this point in time. Just do that with the breath. Be open to receive, and if that scares you, be open to receive what you're able to at this point. That's all. You will never get more than you're able to hold. It's impossible, and that's why we do the work, to actually expand so we can hold more. Did you know that the crush, the difficulties that we were knocked over, we don't have to go through it like that anymore? Did you know that? We don't have to. The crush, the constriction expands us. There is a growth to that, but there are ways of doing it without having to go through such a smash, right? There are. It's where we're conscious of it and the perspective that we're looking at it from. So I'm going to leave you with that. Much love. Thanks for staying up with me, Mercedes. I appreciate it. You didn't have to. Hopefully you got something and you can sleep Do you feel like you can sleep? You might need to just sort of calm your energy a little bit, because you're really glowing right now. All right. Yeah, let's wrap up. We went over a bit, but I was inspired, and that's what came in. So, no, you didn't get the same old circle and grace. Know that you got what you needed. Be open to receive what you needed. If you want to hear it again, go back. There'll be a replay. The replays are on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. We're on YouTube now, so go and look up. I can't remember my name on YouTube, but I think it's just under Cynthia. Anyway, if you want to know, let me know. So breathe and know that you received what you can, what you needed today, and I send you love, and may the blessings be. Whatever that is for you, may it be so. And I shall see you possibly next week. Okay, much love. Ciao. Ciao.